Hey YouTube, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a knife video for you. Today I want to do a comparison video, but before I get to that, I want to share this knife with you because this is sort of a definitive hard use knife. This is the Cold Steel 4MAX, and it is an absolute tank, and it has all the things that we normally associate with being heavy duty and hard use. It's overbuilt, it's super thick blade stock, it's got all oversized components, it's really big, it's really heavy, and of course it will take just about anything you could throw at it. And, you know, in some cases, I can even imagine some fixed blades that would break before this would. All right, now, having said that, can you create a hard use knife that isn't this massive overbuilt thing? And the Frietac and the Inkosi both suggest that you can, okay? I would class both of these knives as fairly hard use knives, as what I like to call EDC plus, and that is a knife that you can carry around with you no problem every day, all the time, but which will do quite a bit more than your average EDC knife is designed to do. All right, your average EDC knife, you know, they're cutting a little bit of rope, some packaging now and then. They're not designed to be heavy duty, hard use tools, but these absolutely are. Okay, the level of quality, the size of the components, the materials chosen, all of those things make these pretty heavy duty tools. And yet, neither one of these is crazy big. Neither one of these is super heavy. And by the way, since we're, the reason I'm comparing these is because they do both happen to be around the same price point, similar materials, and, in a similar vein, if you will, sort of, high-end production, limited run production type of knives that are doing a lot of things really, really well. So I want to go through and do a bit of a comparison between these two. I think they both have, what would you say? They both have areas where they shine. I would like to know, guys, which one do you find more attractive? Do you like the Inkosi a little bit more, or do you like the Frietac a little bit more? I'm not gonna tell you which one I like the looks of. I'll leave that for discussion in the comments down below. I will tell you about all of the different features and what I appreciate about them as we work our way through, beginning with size and weight and how comfortably they carry in pocket. And in this department, there's a pretty clear winner. So let's give a quick rundown here. We have the Inkosi coming in at 4.9 ounces, while the Frietac comes in at 4.1 ounces. We have the Frietac at 8 5/16 inches overall, while the Inkosi is 8 7/16 inches overall. Blade length on this guy, on the Inkosi, is 3 5/8. It's just a hair under, in fact. On the Frietac is 3 9/16. So they are really, really close in that department. They're also the same in terms of length of cutting edge. Finally, when they're closed, where you're actually going to put this knife now in your pocket, all right, we have on the Frietac 4 3/4 inches, and on the Inkosi we have 4 13/16. So just a hair longer on the Inkosi. Now, which one of these is more comfortable in pocket, less noticeable? Well, without a doubt, the Frietac definitely takes that distinction. This knife is very lightweight and carries extremely comfortably, while offering you an awful lot of utility. In fact, they even have the exact same blade length. So I've got to say, in terms of how well these carry in pocket, the Frietac definitely gets the nod in that department. What about the blade? Okay, here we have 20 CV flat ground. Here we have S35 VN with what they call a large hollow grind, which means when they use the wheel to grind this knife, they use a larger wheel, thereby making this a very shallow hollow grind, okay? And they do that specifically to make this a stronger, heavier duty blade. All right, we have stonewash on both, although the stonewash on the Hinderer is not polished at all, while the Inkosi does have a bit of a polish on it. And we have 24 thousandths behind the edge and 20 thousandths behind the edge, both using 140 thousandths Blade stock. Okay, so which blade is better? Which one performs better? They're very, very close, but I will say the Inkosi does perform just a little bit nicer than the Frietac. Now, the Frietac still does a great job of balancing a blade that cuts well and is designed to be fairly tough and reliable. A little bit tougher, perhaps, than the Inkosi, but I've got to say, I'm going to side with a knife that cuts a little better since it is a knife. And so I've got to give the nod in terms of the blade performance to the Inkosi. And I will give you this one little clue. I like the look of the Inkosi blade quite a bit more than the Frietac. What about action? So the action on these two is very different, but very impressive on both. The Frietac uses the typical Hinderer Teflon washers. I'm not sure if that's available in the tri-way pivot. Someone can comment down below if you know the answer to that question. Over here on the Inkosi, we have, of course, those large recessed bearings or large milled out bearings. So you can take a look here. Should be able to show you. There we go. So look at the massive phosphor bronze washers that are on that knife. Did I call them bearings before? You're going to have to forgive me for that. Obviously, they're washers. I think everyone watching knows. So we've got those large washers. Internally, these washers are milled out with pockets that are meant to hold that fancy Chris Reeve fluorinated grease. Both of these knives are extremely smooth. Now, in terms of innovation, I've got to say, I love these large pivots. You know, you've got that great big pivot providing an awful lot of stability on that blade. And yet you have sort of reduced surface area. And then over here we have, because of the milling in the washer, and then over here we have the Teflon, which Hinderer insists on using despite the fact that most of us are not in love with it. However, I think we all give Hinderer a pass because the knives just work so well and you never hear of them having any problems. So whether he's got a particular supplier or a particular kind of Teflon that he uses, or it's the thickness of the washers, or whatever the case may be, you know, the performance out of the Hinderer's Teflon washers is really, really, really good. Okay. Emphasis on the really good. But now, on the flip side, I've got to say the Inkosi and all Chris Reeves, I'm not in love with the studs on these. Your finger can slip off them. They're not super comfortable. I know the Chris Reeve fanboys are going to give me a hard time about that. But the fact is, as I try to open both of these knives, that thumb disc just grabs my thumb and makes it so easy. I don't even have to think about it. The Chris Reeve, I do have to take some conscious effort to make sure that it's opening properly and that my thumb isn't going to slip off. And frankly, you know, if I've got to think about it, right, obviously the other one is easier. So I don't know which one you're going to prefer. Yes, the Chris Reeve is amazing and I love the innovation. The Hinderer is also incredibly well done and consistent. And the flipper tab, honestly, is a little more comfortable than the Chris Reeve tab. So I'm going to call them a tie in terms of action just because, you know, one, I think both of these are great options for a hard use cutting tool. And while they're different, there are things that both of them has done right while the other one has done other things right. So I'm going to call it a tie. They're just different and they're both really well done. Moving on now to the handle. Here we have G10 and titanium frame lock knife. Construction consists of standoffs, of course, with a lock bar insert and Torx bit construction. Over here, again, we have full titanium, stainless steel. Wow, sorry guys. Not a stainless steel lock bar insert, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to show you this on camera or not. You're going to have to take my word for it. In there is a ceramic bearing that serves as the interface between the blade and the lock bar. And that means you still achieve the desired effect of two surfaces that are not going to wear on each other, while also getting the extra benefit of that ball serving as the detent ball as well. Again, pretty innovative, pretty cool. The construction on both of these is amazing. Okay, and really that's the big thing about both of these companies. That I've taken tons of Hinderers apart. I've taken a number of Chris Reeve knives apart. I've had this one apart multiple times. I didn't take this apart because it's not mine, but I'm totally confident that it would come apart just as easily as the 5 or 6 XM18s that I've had apart. They always fit perfectly. The parts are extremely precise. It's just a dream dealing with either one of these in terms of making changes or doing regularly scheduled maintenance. That aspect of both is fantastic. The biggest difference is going to be the G10 versus the titanium. The reality is, though, that they both achieve the same thing. So, the G10 does make this a nice grippy knife and gives you a lot of confidence when it's in hand. The Chris Reeve blasted finish does the same thing. It wears much more easily. And let's see, if you look closely, try to show you. You can see some wear on mine. It looks nicer on camera than it does in person for some reason. But there's some wear, there's a little bit. I can't believe this is showing up so poorly on camera, but if I look at the knife, especially with some light reflecting on it, there you go. You can kind of see a little bit of wear there now. Anyway, it wears, but it grips the hand so well. And here's where I will have to give some extra points to the Inkosi. It's just a little more comfortable in hand. At the front especially. Now the back, it's a little squared off and it's not as perfect. The Hinderer, I guess, is the opposite. It's less comfortable for me at the front. It locks my hand in sort of less aggressively, but it feels a little nicer on the back end. So in terms of ergonomics, which one do I prefer? Just marginally, I do prefer the Inkosi, although I can absolutely understand why someone would disagree with me. I feel I'm locked in just a little more on the Inkosi than I am on the Frietac. So that's my take on handle construction and ergonomics. Finally, what about just an overall thought on these two knives? Look, these are very similar knives. They're both extremely well done. They both offer a great balance. And here's the main standout of this. They both offer a great balance between toughness and size and slimness. And both of these demonstrate that a heavy-duty, hard-use cutting tool that's just meant to do anything you'd ever need to do doesn't have to be a massive tank of a folder, right? You can achieve a tough knife, a durable knife, a useful, confidence-inspiring knife without making it weigh 10 ounces, all right? Now, there's a place for 10-ounce knives, and I absolutely love some of those really big, heavy-duty knives. I do. All right, but both of these are extremely compelling to me because they achieve similar results, similar performance, while doing so in a very slim, carryable EDC size. And I think that's really, really impressive. In terms of which one of these wins the day, guys, I don't know. All I can say, let's say it for me, okay? Because as you saw, there are so many similarities and both of these things do some things differently. For me, the Inkosi does win out by a small margin, and largely that's because I just find it a little classier and cleaner, and I like some of the innovation that are involved in it, like the washers, like the ceramic detent ball, but the Hinderer is considerably lighter and it does carry a little bit better. I have to give credit to that. And I will say the thumb disc is much more comfortable than the Chris Reeve studs. Thanks for watching. I'd love to hear your comments below. Maybe your main comment is, you can build a heavy duty, hard to use knife for less than $400. And I'd be, open to hearing that argument as well. Again, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll talk to you soon.